This series begins by showing a teenage girl named Wednesday Addams who's walking to her classroom. When Wednesday is in the school corridor, everyone seems to look at her with a cynical look because Wednesday is known as a strange girl and always apathetic to the situation and people around her. That day, Wednesday found her younger brother, Pugsley, locked in his locker with his mouth bound and gagged by an apple. She immediately freed her brother while asking Pugsley about the people who had bullied him. However, Pugsley said he didn't know because he didn't want Wednesday to cause trouble at school, which might be bad for them. When she was about to untie Pugsley, Wednesday suddenly had a vision of the incident that happened to him before he ended up in the school locker tied up. Wednesday realized that the vision was a psychic power that she mysteriously possessed, but she didn't know how to control the power because the visions always appeared suddenly. After getting the vision, Wednesday was able to find out that the people who had bullied Pugsley were the male students from the water polo team. Wednesday, who thought that only she could bully Pugsley, then rushed to find the water polo team members who were bullying her younger brother. She then headed to the school swimming pool and found the water polo team practicing. Seeing that the people who bullied Pugsley were in the pool, Wednesday dropped 2 bags of piranhas into the pool to avenge their actions against her younger brother. Upon seeing that, they rushed to the edge of the pool, trying to save themselves. But one of them was too late to save himself, so he suffered severe injuries from being bitten by the piranhas. Because of her actions, Wednesday was eventually expelled from her school, so her parents were forced to enroll her in another school in a small town called Jericho. A few days later, Wednesday was seen on her way to her new school accompanied by her parents, Morticia and Gomez Addams. They planned to enroll Wednesday in Nevermore Academy, which was also where Morticia and Gomez used to go to school in the past. Wednesday's parents think that Nevermore Academy is the right place for their daughter because Nevermore Academy is a school for freaks and outcasts like Wednesday. In addition, Nevermore Academy is also located in a remote area and surrounded by forests, so Wednesday would have no chance of escaping from the school. Upon arrival at Nevermore Academy, Wednesday and her parents were greeted by the principal, Larissa Weems, who used to be Morticia's roommate. Miss Weems then escorted Wednesday to Ophelia Hall where she would share a room with a girl named Enid Sinclair. Unlike Wednesday, who has a gloomy personality and likes the color black, Enid is a cheerful and colorful girl. Enid is also very friendly and tries to get along with her new roommate, despite Wednesday's cynical attitude towards her. Knowing that Wednesday loved the color black, Miss Weems had prepared a black uniform, especially for her. Shortly afterward, Enid took Wednesday around the school while explaining about the 4 main cliques that were quite influential in Nevermore Academy: Fangs, Furs, Stoners, and Scales. The students who belong to each group usually have something in common, like the vampires who are members of the Fangs, the werewolves who are members of the Furs, and the sirens who are members of the Scales. Enid told her roommate that she joined the Furs because she was a werewolf. After that, Enid told Wednesday about a female student named Bianca Barclay who is a siren and the leader of the Scales. Enid said that Bianca also came from a noble family, as well as her ex-boyfriend, Xavier Thorpe, who was known as the greatest artist at Nevermore Academy. While Enid and Wednesday were engaged in a conversation about social media that is currently very popular among teenagers, a young man named Ajax Petropoulos suddenly approached Enid and warned her about her new roommate who is reportedly a psychopath and cold-blooded killer. But Ajax seemed to be unaware of Wednesday's presence next to Enid, so Wednesday could hear what Ajax was saying about her. When Enid introduced Ajax to Wednesday, Ajax suddenly felt awkward and embarrassed for saying such a bad thing about Wednesday. But Wednesday didn't take offense to Ajax's words at all, and instead told a much more horrifying facts to scare him. After being escorted around the school by Enid, Wednesday then met her parents to say goodbye. Before leaving, Morticia gave her beloved daughter a necklace and a crystal ball so that they could communicate with Wednesday, who was reluctant to use a cell phone or any gadget. When the Addams family was about to leave Nevermore Academy, Gomez then took out Thing, a human hand that can move and communicate with sign language, which is usually used by Gomez Addams to help him do reconnaissance. This time, Gomez assigned Thing to watch Wednesday secretly and report all of her movements to him. In the meantime, a man was seen entering the forest near Nevermore Academy for hunting. While the man was resting, he was suddenly attacked by a hideous monster and brutally killed. The incident was the 4th murder to occur within a short period of time, and the victims were brutally murdered with limbs cut off or torn off, as if attacked by a beast. However, Jericho's sheriff, Donovan Galpin, assumed that the murders were related to Nevermore Academy. The next day, Wednesday entered a fencing class and met a young man named Rowan Laszlo who had just been defeated by Bianca in a fencing match. After defeating Rowan, Bianca then complained to her coach, Vlad, because she never got an opponent comparable to her. Wednesday, hearing this, volunteered to fight Bianca and challenged her to a fight without a protective helmet. Vlad initially disapproved of Wednesday's idea as it could put them in danger. But since Bianca accepted the challenge and they agreed not to involve Vlad if something bad happened, Vlad finally allowed them to fight without using protective helmets. In this match, whoever gets hurt first will be declared defeated. Wednesday turns out to have pretty good skills, so she can keep up with Bianca, who is a great fencer. However, Bianca, who was not willing to be defeated by a new student, then used her best techniques until she finally managed to defeat Wednesday by injuring her forehead. When Wednesday was about to return to her room, suddenly someone dropped a stone statue right at her. Fortunately, Xavier, who saw it, immediately saved Wednesday so that the stone statue did not fall on her. Xavier rushed the unconscious Wednesday to the infirmary and revealed that he and Wednesday had met before when the Addams family attended his godmother's funeral, and at that time Wednesday managed to save Xavier, who was almost burned in his godmother's coffin. In her spare time, Wednesday usually finds time to write mystery novels, which is her hobby. While writing in her room, Wednesday suddenly heard a strange noise coming from her bed and found Thing hiding under her covers. She soon realized that her parents sent Thing to spy on her. Since Thing was found out, Wednesday gave Thing two choices: be locked up in a drawer for a semester or become her subordinate and help her to escape from Nevermore Academy. Not wanting to be locked up, Thing finally chose to help Wednesday. The next day, Miss Weems drove Wednesday to the town of Jericho to meet a psychiatrist named Valerie Kinbot to undergo rehabilitation as ordered by the court after Wednesday tried to kill her former schoolmates. In the middle of the counseling session, Wednesday pretended to go to the toilet and tried to escape through the window. During her escape, Wednesday accidentally collides with a man and suddenly has a vision of the man's death in a traffic accident. Afterward, Wednesday enters a coffee shop and meets a bartender who turns out to be Sheriff Galpin's son, Tyler. She then helps Tyler, who seems to be having trouble fixing a coffee machine. After Wednesday managed to fix the coffee machine, Tyler then offered to take her to the nearest train station. But Tyler told Wednesday that she had to wait first because his work hours would only end in an hour. Wednesday agreed to wait for Tyler to finish work, and while waiting in the restaurant, she was approached by the mayor's son, Lucas Walker, who came to the place with his friends. Knowing that Wednesday was a student of Nevermore Academy, Lucas and his friends insulted her by calling her an outcast. Wednesday then returned their insults and eventually got into a fight with them. Surprisingly, Wednesday turned out to have quite great fighting skills, so she could easily defeat Lucas and his friends. Not long after, Sheriff Galpin suddenly appeared and seemed surprised to find out that Wednesday was able to defeat Lucas and his friends alone. Because of this incident, Wednesday was eventually spotted by Miss Weems, who was looking for her whereabouts because she escaped from Dr. Kinbot's office. When Miss Weems called Wednesday by her surname, Sheriff Galpin was shocked because he knew Wednesday's father, Gomez Addams. Sheriff Galpin then told Wednesday that her father was a murderer and warned her that he would always keep an eye on her because she was part of the Addams family. On their way back to Nevermore Academy, Wednesday and Miss Weems saw a truck that had just crashed at the edge of the forest. When Miss Weems hoped that no one had died in the accident, Wednesday told her that the driver was dead and had a broken neck. Miss Weems wondered how Wednesday could know that, as if she had seen it firsthand. Wednesday didn't say anything to Miss Weems because she had a vision of the accident when she collided with the truck driver before. Later that evening, Wednesday is seen playing her cello on the roof to release the stress of all the incidents that happened that day. At the same time, Rowan is seen entering a secret room and retrieving a book using his telekinesis powers. He then opened it and tore out a page in which there was a sketch of a girl with 2 braids. Afterward, Wednesday sent Thing to meet Tyler at his home. Tyler looked so scared when he first met Thing and tried to kick Thing out of his room. But then, Tyler soon found out that Wednesday was the one who had sent Thing to deliver the message. Wednesday apparently gave Tyler a phone number and asked him to call her. Tyler then made a video call with Wednesday, who borrowed Enid's laptop to communicate with him. Wednesday then tells Tyler about the Harvest Festival that will be held at the end of the week and asks him to help her escape. Wednesday promises a good reward if he is willing to take her to the train station. But Tyler said that he would fulfill his promise to help Wednesday escape because she had helped him fix the coffee machine. In the Harvest Festival, Wednesday finally met with Tyler, who provided police documents about the murder case involving Gomez Addams. Although Wednesday's father was eventually found not guilty in the murder case, Sheriff Galpin still seems to insist that Gomez is the perpetrator of the murder and is determined to find evidence that can put Wednesday's father in prison. As Tyler and Wednesday are about to board the car to leave for the train station, Lucas and his friends suddenly appear and confront them, planning to take revenge on Wednesday for embarrassing them. Knowing that they couldn't cause a scene that would attract people's attention, Wednesday and Tyler fled into the crowd. At the same time, Wednesday accidentally bumped into Rowan and suddenly had a vision of his death. Therefore, Wednesday decided to cancel her intention to run away and catch up with Rowan, who ran into the middle of the forest. After catching up with Rowan, Wednesday immediately warned him about his death that might happen soon. Surprisingly, Rowan attacked Wednesday with his telekinesis power, saying that he had to kill her to save everyone at Nevermore Academy. Rowan also revealed that he was the one who had dropped the stone statue because he intended to kill Wednesday, who was predicted to cause havoc in Nevermore. Rowan said that his mother, who was a clairvoyant, knew about a braid girl whose sketch was contained in a book kept inside a secret room in Nevermore. Rowan's mother apparently sent Rowan to Nevermore Academy to stop the braid girl if she shows up and attends Nevermore Academy. But then, a monster suddenly appeared and attacked Rowan. The monster then tore Rowan apart and brutally killed him. Strangely, the monster only looked at Wednesday and then just left after killing Rowan. Wednesday rushed to report the incident to Sheriff Galpin, who immediately mobilized the police officers to find Rowan's body and the whereabouts of the homicidal monster. However, after searching for 24 hours, the police officers found nothing, not even a trace of the monster, blood or sign of a struggle, so Sheriff Galpin assumed that Wednesday was just making up a story about the homicidal monster killing Rowan. Even so, Wednesday tries to convince Sheriff Galpin that she really saw Rowan being killed by the monster. She is sure that someone is deliberately covering up the murder to avoid people's suspicions about the existence of the homicidal monster roaming the forest. In the middle of their debate, Rowan suddenly appeared in the room alive and well, which contradicted Wednesday's statement of seeing Rowan killed in front of her. Because Rowan had returned to Nevermore Academy alive and well, Sheriff Galpin finally closed the case. However, Wednesday remains suspicious of Rowan and assumes that the Rowan standing in front of them right now is somehow not the real Rowan. Therefore, she is determined to investigate and uncover the truth behind the murder. Shortly afterward, Wednesday met Miss Weems and asked for permission to talk to Rowan. But unexpectedly, Rowan was already expelled from school, and Miss Weems refused to tell the reason why he was expelled and said that Rowan would be going home by train this afternoon. Wednesday then tried to find information about Rowan from her schoolmates. First of all, Wednesday met Bianca, who found herself unconscious at the time of the incident. Bianca told Wednesday that she rushed to report to Miss Weems and took Wednesday back to Nevermore. After that, Wednesday meets Xavier, who is Rowan's roommate. Xavier reveals that Rowan is actually a nice young man, but he's been more erratic the last couple weeks. He then asked about Wednesday and Tyler's relationship, as she seemed to be getting along well with Tyler. Wednesday curtly replied that Tyler was doing her a favor driving her out of town. Upon hearing that, Xavier then warns Wednesday to stay away from Tyler and the boys from the town because they always insult Nevermore Academy students and treat them badly. Implicitly, Xavier seems to have romantic feelings towards Wednesday and feels jealous when he sees her closeness with Tyler. Wednesday then sent Thing to follow Rowan, who was going to the train station. Upon arrival at the train station, Thing loses track of Rowan when he enters the toilet and changes his form into a middle-aged man. Thing, who did not realize this, then waited for Rowan, who never came out of the toilet. Rowan, who had turned into a middle-aged man, then left the station, and while walking through a quiet area, the middle-aged man suddenly transformed into Miss Weems, who turned out to be the shapeshifter. Having lost track of Rowan, Wednesday decided to look for clues at the crime scene and accidentally met Tyler, who was following his father. Sheriff Galpin was investigating a murder case that occurred around the area a few days ago. Tyler then asked Wednesday about the incident involving Rowan, and he finally believed that Wednesday was not making it up after they found Rowan's glasses at the crime scene. Afterwards, Wednesday returns to Nevermore and secretly enters Rowan and Xavier's room to look for the book Rowan took from the secret room. But Wednesday doesn't find the book and she has to hide because Xavier suddenly enters the room along with Bianca, who is annoyed by Xavier's closeness to Wednesday. They then get into an argument as Bianca brings up the reason they broke up while trying to convince Xavier to get back together with her. The next day, Wednesday and Enid participated in the Edgar Allan Poe Cup, where they had to compete against Bianca's team and Xavier's team in a rowing race. Each team must row across to Raven Island, pull a flag from Crackstone's crypt, and hustle back without sinking or being sunk. The first team to cross the finish line with their flag wins the cup and bragging rights for a year, as well as some special privileges. As in previous years, Bianca and her team always cheated to sabotage the opposing team's boats. This time, Bianca assigned a mermaid named Kent to push the opposing team's boats to make it difficult for them to control their boats. Wednesday, who realized this, then took out the net she had prepared under the boat to trap Kent. Upon arriving at Raven Island, Wednesday rushed to Crackstone's crypt to retrieve the flag. When Wednesday accidentally touched the crypt, she suddenly had a vision of a young girl who looked a lot like her. The girl then told Wednesday that she was the key. However, Wednesday didn't have time to ask the girl anything because she suddenly woke up and had to rush back to the boat. When they were about to sail back to Nevermore, Wednesday and her team got into trouble because Kent, who had been freed from the net, tried to push their boat. Knowing this, Thing quickly entered the water to immobilize Kent, until they finally caught up with Bianca's team, who had almost reached the finish line. Wednesday then took out the weapon she had prepared to perforate Bianca's boat, until Wednesday and her team finally won the Edgar Allan Poe Cup after eliminating Bianca's team, who were the former champion. Later that night, after getting a clue from the cut page of the book given by Rowan earlier, Wednesday managed to find a secret library hidden under the statue of Edgar Allan Poe. Inside the library, Wednesday finally managed to find the book she was looking for. However, when she was about to leave the place, suddenly someone ambushed her from behind. Shortly afterward, Wednesday was confronted by the Nightshade, an elite group of Nevermore consisting of Bianca, Xavier, Ajax, Kent, and several students who were privileged by the principal to use the library as their headquarters. Bianca intends to punish Wednesday for entering the room without their permission, while Xavier suggests that they should recruit Wednesday since her parents used to be members of the Nightshade. But Wednesday refused to join the Nightshade and decided to leave the place. After piecing together the pictures in the book, Wednesday finally got information about Joseph Crackstone, who is none other than Jericho's founding father. The next day, Wednesday and the Nevermore Academy students were going to do volunteer jobs in the Outreach Day event held in Jericho. Knowing that Crackstone was a pilgrim, Wednesday decided to investigate the Pilgrim World, one of the most famous tourist attractions in Jericho, and try to find clues about Crackstone and the relationship between them in the past. While doing a volunteer job at the Pilgrim World, Wednesday saw Lucas and his friends bullying one of her schoolmates, Eugene Oettinger. Because Eugene reminded her of Pugsley, Wednesday immediately saved the boy and took him to tour the Pilgrim World. Wednesday, who wanted to investigate Crackstone's past, then asked Eugene to keep an eye on the surroundings, while she would enter a forbidden place. Inside the room, Wednesday saw a painting about the witch trials conducted by Crackstone, and surprisingly, she also found the girl from her vision in the painting. Knowing that the girl might be related to Crackstone, Wednesday tried to find the book held by the girl and found that the book in the room was a replica. She then went to Tyler and asked about the location of the old meeting house as shown in the painting, hoping to find clues or visions in the place. Tyler informed her that the old meeting house was now only a ruin and located in the middle of the forest. In addition, he also warned that the place was often inhabited by vagrants and addicts, and asked Wednesday to be careful if she insisted on going there. Wednesday ignored the warning and rushed to the location indicated by Tyler. Upon arriving at the ruins of the old meeting house, Wednesday tried to touch all sides of the ruins, hoping to get a vision of Crackstone and the girl from her vision. Shortly afterward, Wednesday suddenly had a past vision of the young girl who turned out to be Wednesday's ancestor, Goody Adams. At that time, Goody and her family, as well as several villagers who were accused of being sorcerers, were locked up in a house by Crackstone and his followers who intended to burn them alive. Fortunately, Goody manages to escape and warns Wednesday that Crackstone will not stop before he destroys the outcasts like her and her schoolmates at Nevermore Academy. When she was about to leave the place, Wednesday was surprised by the appearance of the homicidal monster, so she rushed after the monster, although in the end she did not catch up with the monster. Wednesday then found the monster's footprints that suddenly turned into human footprints, which proved that the monster was actually a human. Shortly afterward, Xavier suddenly appeared behind Wednesday and told her that he was there because he was worried about her safety. Xavier also told her that he had texted Rowan and invited him to go snowboarding like last year. Oddly enough, Rowan texted right back this time and said he wouldn't be able to make it, even though he and Rowan had never snowboarded last year. During the unveiling of the Crackstone statue in the town square, Wednesday deliberately burns the statue to avenge the crimes committed by Crackstone against his ancestors in the past. Later that night, a beggar who was fiddling with a camera he found in the trash was surprised by the appearance of the homicidal monster who immediately attacked him, and killing him. Not long after, Sheriff Galpin, who arrived at the crime scene, found the camera and tried to find clues about the incident that killed the beggar. Surprisingly, Sheriff Galpin finally found evidence of the monster that the beggar accidentally photographed when he was attacked by the homicidal monster. Sheriff Galpin began to think that Wednesday's statement about the existence of the homicidal monster in the area was indeed true. Meanwhile, Enid, who was waiting for Ajax near the gates of Nevermore Academy, looked very worried because Ajax did not come even though they had promised to go on a date. Unexpectedly, Ajax turned to stone after accidentally seeing his own reflection while he was in the bathroom. As one of the Gorgons, Ajax's hair made of living venomous snakes that turned those who beheld them, including himself, to stone for several hours. In the meantime, Wednesday, who managed to sneak out of Nevermore Academy, was seen entering the morgue to examine the body of the beggar who had just been killed by the homicidal monster. With the help of the Thing, Wednesday discovers that each victim of the murder is missing a limb, as if the monster is a psychopath and serial killer who likes to collect the body parts of his victims as trophies for his success in killing them. The next day, Wednesday noticed that Xavier was behaving strangely and found scratch marks on his neck. When Wednesday inquired about it, Xavier argued that he had an accident during a fencing match. Wednesday became suspicious of Xavier and secretly followed him to his painting studio near the forest. When Xavier left, Wednesday sneaked into the studio and was surprised to find many homicidal monster paintings painted by Xavier. After seeing the homicidal monster paintings that were exactly the same as the original form, Wednesday was even more convinced that Xavier was the monster. She then took one of the sketches of the painting and showed it to Sheriff Galpin while asking him to investigate Xavier's alibi on the night of the murder and conduct a search, because she felt sure that Xavier was hiding evidence of his crime in the painting studio. But Sheriff Galpin refuses Wednesday's request because they have no evidence to drag Xavier to the police station, let alone to conduct a search. Therefore, Wednesday was determined to find clues and evidence that could drag Xavier to the police station so that Sheriff Galpin could interrogate him. With the help of Eugene, Wednesday finally managed to find a place that was suspected to be the lair of the homicidal monster. Upon entering the cave, Wednesday found scattered animal bones and a chain used to bind human hands. She then picked up a broken fang that she suspected belonged to the monster and planned to match the DNA on the fang with Xavier's blood that she found in the painting studio. But unexpectedly, Wednesday was caught by Xavier when she was about to leave the painting studio. Knowing that Wednesday had suspected him, Xavier tried to convince her that he was not the homicidal monster. He revealed that he knew about the monster because the monster always haunted him in his dreams. Since Xavier has the power to bring anything he paints to life, he was attacked by the monster, and the scratch marks Wednesday saw a few days ago were from the homicidal monster. Although Xavier sounded honest when explaining everything, Wednesday didn't seem to believe him and said that she would investigate further. Shortly afterward, Wednesday went to Sheriff Galpin to hand over the monster's broken fang and Xavier's blood and asked him to match the DNA and prove that Xavier was the homicidal monster. When they returned to Nevermore, Wednesday and Eugene devised a plan to set a trap in the monster's lair and taking pictures of the homicidal monster as evidence that they would show to Sheriff Galpin. However, Thing and Enid have secretly planned for Wednesday to go to the dance party with Tyler. They knew that Wednesday wouldn't go to the dance party because she was never interested in mingling with others. Therefore, they deliberately prepared a surprise for her by making Tyler as her date and bought a black party dress for Wednesday. Since Tyler had already come to pick her up for the dance party, Wednesday had no choice and decided to postpone her plans with Eugene. Wednesday then told Eugene that she had to cancel their plans for tonight and warned Eugene not to wander around the forest at night. However, Eugene, who had already prepared everything, did not heed Wednesday's warning and went to the forest alone. Wednesday, who came to the dance with Tyler, immediately became the center of attention of the Nevermore Academy students, especially Xavier, who seemed annoyed and jealous that Wednesday chose to go to the dance party with Tyler rather than with him. Xavier then approached Wednesday and revealed that Tyler and his friends had deliberately damaged the mural painted by Xavier on the outreach day last year. When Wednesday asked Tyler about it, he did not deny it and admitted that he regretted doing it. Tyler also emphasized to Wednesday that he would never be friends with Lucas and his friends again and tried to make up for his mistake. At the same time, Eugene, who was staking out the homicidal monster's lair, saw someone enter the lair and set it on fire. He quickly fled when he realized that his existence had been discovered by the person. Back to the Nevermore, Lucas' friends secretly infiltrate the school and intend to disrupt the prom in retaliation for Wednesday burning the Crackstone statue a few days ago. They deliberately sprayed the colored paint into the prom hall and made the place look like it was covered in blood. The Nevermore students suddenly became panicked and frightened and tried to escape from the place. In the midst of the panic, Wednesday suddenly had a vision of Eugene being attacked by the homicidal monster. Wednesday rushed to the forest followed by one of her teachers, Miss Thornhill, who helped her find Eugene's whereabouts. But unfortunately, upon arriving at the forest, Wednesday found Eugene lying unconscious in a state of blood and severely injured due to the monster's attack. A few days later, Nevermore Academy held a parents' weekend event where the parents would visit their children at the academy and spend time with them throughout the weekend. Shortly afterward, Wednesday's parents, Morticia and Gomez Adams, finally arrived at Nevermore Academy with Pugsley and their butler, Lurch. At this moment, Miss Weems mentions the unfortunate incident involving Eugene and declares that he is on the mend and is expected to make a full recovery. On the other hand, Enid suggests Wednesday to visit Eugene, who is still lying comatose in the hospital. However, Wednesday feels guilty for Eugene because she is the cause of his terrible incident, so that she felt it was inappropriate to come to see him. Enid tried to convince Wednesday that the unfortunate incident that Eugene experienced was not her fault because she had warned Eugene not to go to the forest alone. In addition, the homicidal monster hasn't attacked anyone in the past week, so Enid assumed that the monster might have disappeared. Enid, who is usually always cheerful and excited, seems unenthusiastic in the parents' weekend event because her mother always asks about her transformation into a werewolf, which until now she has not been able to do, even though she has tried various ways. Besides Enid, Xavier and Bianca also looked unenthusiastic because their parents had never come to the event since they first came to Nevermore Academy. But surprisingly, Bianca's mom, Gabrielle, suddenly appeared behind her, even though she had never seen her daughter or even asked how she was doing over the phone, so Bianca thought that her mother might have abandoned her. Since Dr. Kimbot concluded that Wednesday was not making good progress in her therapy session, Miss Weems decided to send Wednesday and her family to attend a weekend-long family therapy session at Dr. Kimbot's suggestion. However, during the therapy session, Wednesday tried to get information about the murder case that had made her father a suspect. She openly tells her family that she is determined to uncover the truth behind the murder case, even though Morticia has confirmed to her daughter that Gomez did not kill Garrett Gates, so he was acquitted of the murder charge. In the meantime, Bianca, who was also in Jericho, was seen having a heated conversation with her mother because Gabrielle always used her siren charm to trick the members of the Morning Song community to extract their wealth. Bianca is even angrier when she finds out that her mother came to see her only because she wanted to ask for her help to recruit more people to join the Morning Song community. Gabrielle asked Bianca to use her siren charm on the members of the Morning Song community, while revealing that her siren charm was starting to weaken. Upon learning that, Bianca immediately refused her mother's request because she didn't want to get involved with the Morning Song community, let alone use her siren charm to deceive others. As if knowing that her daughter would refuse her request, Gabrielle then threatened to expose Bianca's cheating to Miss Weems. Bianca apparently used her siren charm when applying to Nevermore Academy so that she could be accepted into the school. Hearing the threat from her mother, Bianca finally agreed to help her, but she asked Gabrielle to wait until she graduated from the school. At the same time, Sheriff Galpin gets a report about a coroner named Dr. Anwar who was found dead in the morgue. However, the investigation of the case is hampered because the only CCTV camera in the morgue is covered with black gum, making it difficult for the police to investigate. At the crime scene, Sheriff Galpin finds the suicide notes that Dr. Anwar allegedly wrote before his death. The suicide notes say that Dr. Anwar felt guilty for covering up the facts of an old murder case by falsifying the death report. When Sheriff Galpin found out that the old case referred to by Dr. Anwar was the case of Garrett Gates' death, he immediately realized that Gomez Addams must be related to Dr. Anwar's death. Apparently all this time Sheriff Galpin still suspected Gomez Addams as the perpetrator of Garrett Gates' murder, and surprisingly, shortly after Gomez Addams' arrival to Jericho, Dr. Anwar was found dead by ending his life in the morgue and revealed that he had falsified Garrett Gates' death report, which then proved that Gomez Addams was the culprit. Meanwhile, Wednesday was seen visiting Eugene on Enid's advice. She came to Eugene's treatment room and brought a jar of honey for him, saying that the bees missed Eugene because Eugene apparently had the power to control the bees. Wednesday still feels bad for Eugene, so she asks Thing to look after Eugene because she assumes that whoever attacked Eugene that night will come back to kill him. Shortly afterward, Wednesday was surprised by the appearance of Eugene's parents, who told her that Eugene often talked about her because Wednesday was Eugene's first friend at Nevermore Academy, even joining the Hummers Club. When Wednesday returned to school, she was surprised by the appearance of Sheriff Galpin, who immediately arrested her father for the murder of Garrett Gates. After her father's arrest, Wednesday intensified her investigation to uncover the truth behind the murder case involving her father. Wednesday then visits her father in prison and demands him to tell her what really happened on the night of the murder. Realizing that he must tell everything to his daughter, Gomez began to tell the past about himself and Garrett Gates. At that time, Garrett Gates, who was a normie, was infatuated with Morticia, who was a student at Nevermore Academy. Garrett mistook her kindness for interest. His infatuation turned into obsession and he started stalking her. Morticia had tried to report Garrett to the police because he was always stalking her. But the report was ignored by the police because Garrett's family were the oldest and richest in Jericho, especially since Morticia was a Nevermore Academy student who was considered as an outcast. The situation also worsened because Garrett's father turned out to be an outcast-hating bigot, and he was furious that Morticia had accused his only son. The scene then switches to the past when Garrett desperately breaks into Nevermore Academy to meet Morticia. But at the same time, Garrett saw Morticia, who was making out with Gomez. Garrett, who was filled with anger and jealousy, then took a sword and tried to attack Gomez. They were involved in a fierce fight on the top floor, until finally Garrett cornered Gomez. When Gomez finally managed to counterattack, he then picked up the sword lying nearby, trying to protect himself when Garrett was about to attack him. But unexpectedly, Gomez accidentally stabbed Garrett, and Garrett eventually died after falling from the top floor. Gomez ended his story and apologized to Wednesday for not being a perfect father to her. However, Wednesday said that Gomez had done everything to raise her to be tough and independent so that she could face the world that lay ahead of her with all its problems. Realizing that Gomez was telling the truth, Wednesday was determined to prove that her father was not the perpetrator of Garrett Gates' murder. Wednesday then met her mother at the Nightshade headquarters, where Morticia revealed that Goody Addams was the one who had killed Joseph Crackstone. However, Wednesday's visit was to inquire about the incident that killed Garrett Gates a few years ago. Morticia told her daughter that Gomez was not the perpetrator of Garrett Gates' murder and began to tell her about their past. That night, Morticia tried to stop Garrett from killing Gomez. She picked up a sword lying on the floor and pointed it at Garrett. Morticia revealed that night Garrett was blinded by rage and looked at her with a glare. He even foamed at the mouth and did not hesitate to lunge at her, so she was forced to kill Garrett. Gomez, who saw this, then took the sword from Morticia because he did not want her to be blamed for the incident. Bravely, Gomez was willing to take the blame for Garrett's death in order to protect the woman he loved so much. After hearing her mother's story about Garrett's foaming mouth, Wednesday then realized something and asked Morticia to explain more details about Garrett's condition that night. At the same time, Morticia finally realized something, so the two of them decided to dig up Garrett Gates' grave to prove their suspicions. Although they had to end up in jail for digging up the grave without permission, Wednesday managed to prove that Garrett Gates died not because he was stabbed by Morticia, but because of the nightshade poison that made Garrett's skin still intact and blue despite having died years ago. Shortly afterward, Wednesday suddenly had a vision of Garrett's past before his death. Garrett was ordered by his father, Ansel Gates, to kill Nevermore Academy students with the nightshade poison, but the poison took the life of his only son. The next day, Wednesday and her mother met the mayor, who was the sheriff who handled Garrett Gates' death case. After being threatened by Wednesday, the mayor finally revealed that he deliberately falsified Garrett Gates' death report to maintain the reputation of Jericho and Nevermore Academy. But Morticia doubted the confession because she had always assumed that the mayor and Garrett's father had conspired to cover up the truth behind Garrett's death. With the evidence obtained by Wednesday, the mayor was unable to escape, so he was forced to release Gomez because Wednesday and Morticia threatened to reveal the truth behind Garrett Gates' death to the people of Jericho. While waiting for Gomez to get out of the prison, Morticia then explains to her daughter about her supernatural power, which Morticia also has. But the difference is, Morticia usually always gets positive visions because of her gentle and loving nature. However, she thinks that Wednesday is much stronger than her and asks her to train her supernatural power with the help of their deceased ancestors. Morticia warns Wednesday to be careful of Goody Adams because she was a very powerful witch, but vengeance and anger have eaten away at her so she could not control her power. Since Morticia didn't want Wednesday to end up like Goody, she asked her daughter to be more open with her. While checking the yearbook given by her mother before leaving Nevermore Academy, Wednesday immediately realized something and rushed to meet Miss Weems in her room. Wednesday apparently knew about Miss Weems deliberately transforming into Rowan to cover up his death. But Miss Weems argued that she did it with the approval of Rowan's father, who strictly asked her not to involve the police. In the middle of their debate, they are suddenly surprised by the burning grass and form a sentence that reads, "Fire will rain." Later that night, Enid takes Wednesday to Crackstone's crypt, where Thing has apparently prepared a birthday surprise for Wednesday with her schoolmates. However, Wednesday is more interested in the Latin inscription inside Crackstone's crypt, which surprisingly reads, "Fire will rain when I rise," when translated into English. When she touched the writing, Wednesday suddenly had a vision and met Goody, who warned her that Crackstone would rise from the dead to destroy the outcasts at Nevermore Academy. Goody then shows Wednesday a gate and tells her that she must find the place to stop Crackstone. On her 16th birthday, Wednesday received a preserved squirrel carcass from her parents and a black knit scarf from Enid. While visiting the city, Wednesday gets a free cup of coffee and a dinner invitation from Tyler to celebrate her birthday. But she declined the invitation because she wanted to investigate the clues given by Goody. Later that night, Wednesday met Xavier and asked about the gate. Surprisingly, Xavier had dreamed of the gate and painted it. Xavier then told Wednesday that the gate was the gate of the Gates family's house. The next day, Wednesday, who intended to sneak into the Gates family's house that had been abandoned for years, saw the mayor who had just come out of the old house. Wednesday, who had been secretly following the mayor and listening to the mayor's conversation with Sheriff Galpin, decided to sneak into the trunk of the mayor's car. When he was about to meet Sheriff Galpin at the coffee shop, the mayor was suddenly hit by a car traveling at high speed and fell into a coma. Since Wednesday was hiding in the trunk of the mayor's car, Sheriff Galpin suspected her of being involved in the incident. But Wednesday denied the accusation and said that someone might have intended to silence the mayor because he managed to uncover the truth that was deliberately hidden. For being involved in the incident that harmed the mayor, Wednesday was punished by Miss Weems and banned from leaving the Nevermore Academy for any reason. However, Wednesday cleverly planned something involving Tyler and Enid so that she could leave Nevermore Academy and investigate the Gates family's house. At the same time, Xavier visited Wednesday's room and got information from the Thing that she secretly went to the Gates family's house. Upon arriving at Garrett and his family's home, Tyler and Enid looked confused as they thought they were celebrating Wednesday's birthday. But Wednesday told them that she didn't care about her birthday at all because this investigation was more important than anything else. When they open the garage at the house, Wednesday and her companions are shocked to find the car that had hit the mayor earlier this afternoon. Wednesday wondered about the driver as she had been told by Sheriff Galpin that the entire Garrett family had died horribly and the house had been empty for years. When she enters the house, Wednesday accidentally discovers a secret room with a painting of Joseph Crackstone and candles underneath the painting, indicating that it is a shrine. When Enid and Tyler seem to shudder in horror upon learning that the Gates family worships Joseph Crackstone, Wednesday bluntly replies that the altar in her house is much bigger because it is in the living room. Wednesday then examines the candles and finds that the candles are warm to the touch, which indicates that the candles were recently extinguished by someone who came to the house before them. Wednesday told Tyler to check downstairs in the basement, while she and Enid would check upstairs. Wednesday and Enid entered a room that looked neat and clean as if someone had cleaned it. While going through each side of the room, they found a music box with the initials LG that belonged to Garrett's younger sister, Laurel Gates, who was rumored to have drowned at sea. Not long after, they heard Tyler's screams warning about the appearance of the homicidal monster. Unexpectedly, the homicidal monster had entered the house and immediately chased Wednesday and Enid, who tried to escape to the basement. When they finally managed to avoid the monster's pursuit, Wednesday and Enid accidentally found body parts of the victims killed by the homicidal monster. They then searched for Tyler's whereabouts and found him injured from the homicidal monster's attack. At the same time, Xavier suddenly appeared and tried to help Tyler by stopping his bleeding. They then took Tyler to his house secretly so as not to be caught by Sheriff Galpin. But Tyler's father caught them and immediately demanded an explanation about the incident that had injured his son. Wednesday then took Sheriff Galpin to the Gates family house to show him the body parts of the victims he saw in the basement of the house. But when they arrived at the house, they found nothing, not even Joseph Crackstone's altar of worship and Laurel Gates' new bed, so Sheriff Galpin assumed that Wednesday was just making things up, since she couldn't prove anything. After returning to Nevermore Academy, Enid, who was upset with Wednesday, decided to move to another room, because she had lied to her and got her and Tyler into a dangerous situation. Wednesday also did not appreciate all the things she had done for her, even though she sincerely wanted to be friends with her, even though she was a strange and eccentric girl. But Wednesday never considered her as a friend, so Enid chose to give up and leave her. Surprisingly, after Enid got mad at her and left her alone, Wednesday somehow felt sad and down, even though she had always been alone and didn't care about anyone. Wednesday then picked up Laurel's music box that she had taken from her family house. When opening the music box, she accidentally found photos of herself that were taken secretly, which indicates that Laurel may still be alive and has been spying on her for a certain purpose. At the same time, someone is seen sneaking into the mayor's infirmary and deliberately killing the mayor to silence him forever. At the mayor's funeral, Wednesday suspects several people who might be the masterminds behind all the incidents, but she has yet to get evidence to expose their crimes. After attending the mayor's funeral, Wednesday met her uncle, Fester, who had come to Jericho to visit her. Wednesday is very happy with Fester's arrival because she is quite close to her uncle, who has taught her many things. Wednesday's father had told Fester everything, so Fester went to Jericho to help his niece. Wednesday then secretly smuggled Fester into Nevermore Academy and asked him to hide in the Hummers headquarters because no one would visit the place other than Eugene, who was now lying comatose in the hospital. Shortly afterward, Wednesday showed a sketch of the homicidal monster to her uncle, and Fester told her that the monster was known as the Hyde. But Fester didn't know the cause of someone turning into the Hyde, so he suggested Wednesday to look for the diary of Nathaniel Faulkner, who was the founder of Nevermore Academy. He told Wednesday that Faulkner's diary was kept in a secret safe in the Nightshade Library. Upon hearing that, Wednesday asked her uncle to help her find the diary. Later that night, when Wednesday entered the Nightshade Library, she met Xavier, who was alone in the place. They then got into a heated argument because Wednesday accused Xavier of being the homicidal monster because he was always at the place where the monster appeared and also painted the monster's figure very accurately. Xavier was unable to defend himself and only asked Wednesday why he didn't kill her if he was the homicidal monster. After hearing Wednesday's answer, which sounded absurd to him, Xavier then left her because he was fed up with all the accusations she had made against him. Shortly afterward, Fester appears and they finally manage to find Faulkner's diary with the help of the Thing. In his diary, Faulkner described the Hyde as artists by nature, but equally vindictive in temperament. Born of mutation, the Hyde lays dormant until unleashed by a traumatic event or unlocked through chemical inducement or hypnosis. Unlocking trauma causes the Hyde to develop an immediate bond with its liberator, who the creature now sees as its master. It becomes the willing instrument of whatever nefarious agenda this new master might propose. Upon learning about the Hyde, Wednesday realizes that the mastermind behind all this is not only the homicidal monster, but also its master, who deliberately releases and controls the Hyde. Wednesday, who suspected Xavier of being the Hyde from the beginning, followed him and found out that he was actually having a therapy session with Dr. Kinbot and met her secretly by the lake. Upon seeing them, Wednesday assumed that Dr. Kinbot was the Hyde's master. While Wednesday was discussing the Hyde with her uncle at the coffee shop, Tyler suddenly approached them with a cup of coffee for Wednesday. Tyler seemed interested in the Hyde and asked Wednesday to explain to him about the monster that had injured him. After that, Tyler invited Wednesday to go on a date with him at Crackstone's crypt. In that simple but romantic date, Tyler then expressed his love for Wednesday, but she instead told Tyler that her priority right now was to find the mastermind behind all the events that had killed many people and also left Eugene lying comatose in the hospital. After returning to Nevermore, Wednesday found her room in a mess. She soon realized that someone had ransacked her room, attacked Thing, and stolen Faulkner's diary. Wednesday rushed Thing to Fester, who finally managed to save Thing after shocking Thing several times with his power. A furious Wednesday is determined to kill anyone who dares to hurt Thing because Thing is part of the Addams family and deep down, she actually cares about Thing. After saving Thing, Wednesday told Fester that the police were hunting him all over the city, so she asked Fester to leave the city immediately to avoid being caught. Fester understood the situation and told Wednesday that he would take care of the Thing tonight and leave town the next day. Wednesday then met Miss Weems to inform her about the Hyde. Surprisingly, Miss Weems already knew that the homicidal monster was the Hyde and deliberately hid the fact from everyone in order to protect Nevermore Academy. Miss Weems then explained that Faulkner was killed by the Hyde, and because the monster was so violent and unpredictable, the Hyde was banned from entering Nevermore Academy since 30 years ago. Realizing that Wednesday might have suspected someone as the Hyde, Miss Weems asked Wednesday to tell her about the identity of someone who might have transformed into the Hyde and become the mastermind of all the sadistic murders that happened in Jericho. But Wednesday doesn't seem to believe Miss Weems because she thinks that she only cares about her reputation as the principal of Nevermore Academy. The next day, Bianca took Wednesday to the Nightshade Library to meet Lucas, who is the mayor's son. Lucas informed them that his father investigated the death of Laurel Gates before his death. In the death report obtained by the mayor from the British police, Laurel Gates was indeed declared dead by drowning. But the police never found her body. A few years after Laurel was declared dead, someone suddenly bought the Gates family's old house, and Wednesday suspected that it was the living Laurel Gates who had changed her identity. After that, Laurel returned to Jericho to take revenge on the people who had caused her family to be destroyed, and she killed the mayor and Dr. Anwar for freeing Gomez Adams, who was then accused of the murder of her older brother. Wednesday then told Bianca and Lucas that the homicidal monster was the Hyde and the person who had controlled the monster was Laurel. After that, Wednesday meets Dr. Kinbot, who she suspects to be Laurel, and reveals information that proves her suspicion that Dr. Kinbot is Laurel, who has changed her identity. But Dr. Kinbot denied the allegations and was deeply offended when Wednesday accused her of manipulating others to achieve her goal of taking revenge on the people who had ruined her life. She then told Wednesday to leave her office. After Wednesday left her office, Dr. Kinbot immediately called Miss Weems to report about Wednesday's unreasonable behavior. But then, Dr. Kinbot heard something from the direction of the toilet, and when she opened the toilet door, the Hyde was already there and immediately attacked her, killing her. Later that night, Wednesday meets Xavier at the painting studio and accuses him of being the Hyde after finding Rowan's glasses and Dr. Kinbot's necklace there. Xavier tried to explain to Wednesday that someone had set him up, but Wednesday had already called Sheriff Galpin, who immediately came to the place to arrest Xavier for all the murders committed by the homicidal monster. Wednesday was a little relieved after Xavier was arrested because it meant that the horrible terror of the Hyde was over. She then went back to her room and made up with Enid, who decided to share a room with her. Afterward, Wednesday meets Tyler at the coffee shop to tell him that she is ready to have a romantic relationship with Tyler. But while they were kissing, Wednesday suddenly had a vision of Dr. Kinbot's death and finally learned that the Hyde was not Xavier, but Tyler. The following night, Wednesday asks Bianca and the Nightshade for help in capturing Tyler. Bianca then used her siren charm to hypnotize him. After that, they took Tyler to Xavier's painting studio to interrogate him. Wednesday then revealed that Tyler got his Hyde side from his mother, who used to be a student of Nevermore Academy and was also a Hyde. Xavier apparently already knew about Tyler's mother, and that's the reason why Xavier always reminded Wednesday to be careful of Tyler. Wednesday wanted to torture Tyler so that he would release the Hyde from inside him, but Bianca and the Nightshade did not agree to that because they did not want to hurt anyone, especially since Tyler had not yet turned into the Hyde, so they chose to leave Wednesday. Bianca and the others then told Miss Weems about Wednesday holding Tyler hostage, so Miss Weems immediately called Sheriff Galpin and asked him to come to Nevermore immediately. After that, Wednesday was finally arrested by Sheriff Galpin and threatened with prison, while Tyler was released because he was not proven to be the homicidal monster who terrorized the residents of Jericho. Before leaving, Tyler finally revealed his true identity as the Hyde and mocked Wednesday for failing to uncover the truth and accusing an innocent person of being the Hyde. Wednesday finally returned to Nevermore after Sheriff Galpin decided not to put her in jail as long as she was expelled from Nevermore Academy. Not wanting the problem to drag on, Miss Weems decided to expel Wednesday from Nevermore Academy. Wednesday reluctantly accepted the decision, even though she was worried about the safety of the Nevermore Academy students and the townspeople, as the Hyde was still free to roam. Enid tried to calm Wednesday down by saying that the Nevermore Academy students would be able to defeat the Hyde because they had the power to fight the monster. The next day, before leaving for the train station, Wednesday took her time to visit Eugene, who had regained consciousness. Eugene told Wednesday an important clue, and she decided to return to Nevermore Academy to reveal the truth. Wednesday then meets Miss Thornhill, who turns out to be Laurel Gates, who faked her death, changed her identity, and returned to Jericho for revenge. Miss Thornhill initially denies the accusation, but after Tyler shows up at the place, Laurel finally reveals all the crimes she committed, including telling Tyler to kill the normies who were only considered as pawns in her revenge plan. But surprisingly, Tyler, who was in that place, turned out to be Miss Weems, who turned herself into Tyler. After confirming that Laurel Gates was the mastermind of all this, Miss Weems then revealed her true identity and tried to warn Laurel to take responsibility for her actions that had killed and hurt many people. However, unexpectedly, Laurel had prepared the nightshade poison and quickly injected the poison into Miss Weems' neck, killing her. After that, she hit Wednesday until she collapsed unconscious. While Laurel takes Wednesday to Crackstone's crypt, Thing rushes to Enid and informs her about Miss Weems' death and Wednesday's abduction. Afterward, Laurel revealed to Wednesday that the Gates family is a direct descendant of Joseph Crackstone, and she intends to continue Crackstone's and also her father's ambition to eradicate the outcasts at Nevermore Academy. Laurel intends to raise Joseph Crackstone from the dead, and to achieve this goal, she needs several human limbs and also Wednesday's blood because she is a direct descendant of Goody Adams, the person who killed Joseph Crackstone and cursed his soul. After collecting the necessary objects and casting the spell found in Goody Adams' magic book, Laurel finally managed to raise Crackstone from the dead. After rising from the dead, Crackstone, who wanted to take revenge on Goody Adams and destroy the outcasts, then stabbed Wednesday and hurriedly went to Nevermore Academy with Laurel. At Nevermore Academy, Ajax tells the Nightshade about Miss Thornhill Laurel Gates, who plans to destroy Nevermore Academy with Joseph Crackstone. While Bianca and the Sirens evacuate the students to safety, Enid rushes to Raven Island to save Wednesday. In the meantime, Goody Adams suddenly appears and approaches the dying Wednesday. Goody tells her that she will save Wednesday and gives her instructions on how to kill Joseph Crackstone. With the magic necklace given by Morticia, Goody Adams' soul finally managed to enter Wednesday's body and heal her from the inside. After Goody saved her, Wednesday rushed to Nevermore to save her schoolmates. On the other hand, Enid, who ran to Wednesday's place, finally managed to become a full-fledged werewolf, coinciding with the appearance of the blood moon. Wednesday, who heard a wolf howl, stopped for a moment and thought that it might be Enid. But unfortunately, she is intercepted by Tyler, who has been ordered by Laurel to kill Wednesday. Tyler turned into the hide and immediately attacked Wednesday. Concurrently, Enid, who had turned into a werewolf, finally arrived at the place and immediately saved Wednesday. Enid engaged in a fierce battle with Tyler until finally defeating the monster. Meanwhile, Wednesday, who had arrived at Nevermore, immediately faced Crackstone, who wanted to destroy the school. They then engaged in a fierce battle until Crackstone managed to corner Wednesday after breaking her sword. At the same time, Bianca appeared to help Wednesday, but she was easily defeated by Crackstone. When Crackstone was about to kill Wednesday, she immediately acted quickly by stabbing Crackstone's heart with her broken blade. Dan Crackstone's body shattered into dust. Shortly afterward, Laurel appeared and threatened Wednesday at gunpoint. But before Laurel could fire a shot, Eugene, who had just arrived in Nevermore, immediately mobilized his swarm of bees to attack Laurel. After all these terrible incidents, Tyler was finally arrested by Sheriff Galpin, who had known that his son was the Hyde, and for the first time, Wednesday hugged Enid and held her tightly because she had risked her life to save her. At Nevermore Academy, Wednesday not only gained valuable experience, but also made new friends who accepted her for who she was and were ready to fight by her side. Before leaving Nevermore Academy for vacation, Wednesday gets a cell phone as gift from Xavier so that they can connect with each other when they are outside the school. The series ends with Wednesday getting a mysterious messages on her cell phone and assuming that everything is not over and Laurel and Tyler might just be pawns of a bigger plan and disaster, which might be coming soon. The moral that we can learn from this series is not to easily believe what we see, because a friend may be an enemy who stabs us in the back, and an enemy is a friend who is willing to face danger to save us.